Good morning and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel on the 24th of January, the Monday morning. As we gather this morning, I have been thinking throughout the weekend about the words of Dr. Roberta Bondar, I believe she was our first female astronaut from Canada, who 30 years ago went up into space. And last Tuesday or Wednesday night, she was on the news. I think it was Wednesday night. She was on the news with Lisa Laflamme on CTV talking about that. And one of the things she talked about was when she viewed the Earth from the spaceship she was on, and she was able to see the creation, the beauty of that Earth, and it brought into stark contrast for her the devastation that our damage to the climate has done. And she talked about the existential threat of climate change. That word existential seems like a very big word, and for years I used to get so hung up on it, not understanding what it meant. And then someone brought it to my attention that the root words in that are existence and exist. So the threat of very existence of our climate. And over the last couple of months, and particularly over the last few weeks, we have seen just such devastation because of climate changes. The dump of snow in eastern Canada, in Ontario and in Quebec, the snow storms that they had in Nova Scotia where they had lightning and thunder as well as a snowstorm at the same time. These atmospheric rivers in BC, the tsunami that the underground volcano that causes tsunami, that not only the tsunami killed people in Tonga, but also the volcanic ash that has covered that country. That particular volcano had reached to the UK, all the way. It impacted British Columbia, and it even impacted the western coast of the United Kingdom. We cannot deny that climate change, for not a good kind of climate change, is happening. And for all of the work that has been done over the last 20 or 30 years to try to convince governments and politicians and corporations to change the way they do business for the sake of the world, for the sake of our climate. And we've been saying, we've got to do it quickly. We can't dilly-dally. And, we've got to do X number of work by this year, by this year. It seems that Mother Nature herself is saying, enough. If you won't do it, I'm going to remind you about why you have to. We have seen blasted cold temperatures here in Alberta. In just a couple of days, we went from having relatively cold winter weather to warming up enough to have a dump of snow and causing people to run off the road and end up in ditches and accidents and things like that, to a warm up and then freezing rain yesterday, causing people to be in ditches again and heading back for very cold weather again. We had the drought this past summer, the fires, the forest fires, the devastation, the volcanoes that haven't been active. To the volcano that erupted under the water near Tonga in December, it was considered to be non-active, and it proceeded to be what I believe was said to be the largest volcanic eruption in a very, very long time. The fact is that there isn't a part of our world that hasn't been affected by climate change, even in just the last 2 or 3 months. Every aspect, between tornadoes ripping through the United States, hurricanes, tsunamis, volcanoes, earthquakes, snowstorms, rainstorms, wildfires. It is absolutely unreal. And now today I'm dealing with the fact that both of my churches, because of things like the fires and the floods and the claims that had to be made for churches across this country from insurance, our insurance has gone up about 30% in 1 year when we were expecting maybe a 5% increase. Maybe that is what will hit home. Maybe that is what will help people realize that this is real and we need to do something about it. Dr. Roberta Bondar talked about the existential threat of climate change. We are losing species. We are finding patterns with animals that are changing because their habitats are disappearing and they're changing so quickly that they can't adapt. If that happens to the animals, what will happen to us? We might have some resources and some adaptability capabilities with our opposable thumbs and reasoning minds that we might be able to adapt more than they can. But there will come a time when these changes, these climate changes are happening so fast that we will not be able to keep up with them. And we may find ourselves heading the way of the dinosaurs. We need to do something. We cannot bury our heads in the sand and say that climate change doesn't exist or it's going to cost too much money to stop doing things like irresponsible burning of fossil fuels. I totally understand that we need our oil and our oil sector. There are many, many things from plastics to medicines that the oil sector, the energy sector contributes to. But there are so many things that the contribution needs to be changed and adapted so that it's not harmful to our environment. We can all make small things to do. Plastics, we can move to using reusable bags, cloth bags. We can reuse those plastic bags we have already collected at home. We can compost. I am so surprised to be living in a place that does not have compost as part of what we do. Every place that we've lived elsewhere has, in the last 15, 20 years, has had an opportunity to compost on purpose. Even if it seems like just a small thing, composting our waste when possible and learning to use things that are recyclable or compostable instead of one-time use items, that's crazy. Why not make the good decision? Why not take care of our earth? We are called as Christians to be good stewards of God's earth. And I cannot imagine that if God would give us his Son, Jesus Christ, allow part of himself to die on the cross for our sins, to save us so that we would not have to die, that we could be saved for eternity. I imagine God must be weeping as God watches what we are doing to the creation that came before we did. In the beginning, the earth was formed before we were. This is God's home. This is God's creation. And we are not doing everything we could do to be good stewards. Now, I recognize that most of us are doing our best, what we think of as our best. We're trying hard to do the right things. But we need to try hard all the time. And sometimes we need to try harder because there are things that can be done, that must be done, that we need to take care, we need to do because we are killing God's creation. And when you kill your own habitat, you kill yourself as well. Roberta Bondar comes from a place of great intelligence, of incredible higher education, from a place where she is respected and honored for her mind and what she has contributed to society and to our country. So we need to listen to her when she says words like the existential threat of climate change. This isn't just climate change, like changing your shirt or changing your shoes. This is climate catastrophe. We are killing our world. There must be some way, with God's help, that we can stop the killing and we can begin the healing. I invite you to pray with me this week that we will find ways to stop the damage that we are doing, to stop the damage that others are doing, and together we will find a way to be excellent, kind, and generous stewards of the creation that God put into our care. Have a good day. Be good to God's creation. Be good to one another. Be good to yourself. And I will see you tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel. God bless.